Steam is once again going completely insane with discounts. We're talking huge AAA shooters, atmospheric horror games, deep RPGs, and a lot of titles that are actually worth your time. And this isn't random filler, these are games you'll genuinely enjoy, especially at these prices. So today I'm breaking down another fresh list of the best Steam deals you should not ignore. Right at the start, the entire Battlefield franchise is on sale right now, with Battlefield 1, 3, 4, 5, Hardline, and even 2042 all sitting at massive 95% discounts. And that's honestly kind of crazy for games of this scale. These are full AAA shooters with huge multiplayer modes, cinematic campaigns, and a ton of content depending on which one you pick. Battlefield 1 still stands out for its atmosphere and World War I setting. Battlefield 4 is loved for its modern combat and sandbox gameplay, and Battlefield 5 brings more updated mechanics and visuals. Even 2042, despite its rough launch, has improved a lot and can actually be a fun experience now, especially at this price. And next, Battlefield 6 at 40% off, and while the discount isn't as massive, it's still a good chance to jump into the newest entry if you've been curious. You're getting the most up-to-date version of the series with improved graphics, large-scale battles, and all the modern systems you'd expect. If you want to be where the current player base is, this is the one to look at. Up next, Green Hell at 90% off, and this is one of the most immersive survival games you can play right now. You're dropped into the Amazon rainforest with almost nothing, and everything around you is a threat. You have to manage hunger, hydration, injuries, and even your mental state. It's very detailed, sometimes brutal, but that's what makes it so engaging. It's especially good if you enjoy realistic survival mechanics and slower, more thoughtful gameplay. And next, Golf with Your Friends at 90% off, and this one is just pure chaos in the best way. It's basically mini golf, but with crazy maps, traps, and physics that can completely ruin your perfect shot in seconds. It's simple to understand, but super fun with friends, especially if you're just looking for something light and competitive. Up next, Limbo and Inside, both at 90% off, and these are two of the most iconic indie games you can get at this price. Both are short, atmospheric puzzle platformers with very minimal storytelling, but that's exactly what makes them special. Everything is told through visuals, sound, and the world itself. Limbo feels darker and more mysterious, while Inside builds on that formula with more complex puzzles and a stronger narrative presence. And next, back in 1995 at 90% off, and this one is clearly aimed at fans of classic survival horror. It intentionally recreates that old school PlayStation 1 style with fixed camera angles, tank controls, and a very slow, tense pace. It's not for everyone, but if you enjoy retro horror and want something that feels like the early days of the genre, this is a really interesting pick. Up next, the Quinfall at 90% off, and this is a large-scale MMORPG that tries to offer a massive open world with a focus on freedom. You've got exploration, crafting, PvP, and different ways to shape your character. It's still developing and evolving, but at this price, it's a good opportunity to jump in and see what it's building toward. And next, WRC 9 FIA World Rally Championship at 90% off, and this is a solid choice if you're into racing games, especially rally. It focuses more on realism with challenging tracks, changing weather conditions, and a strong emphasis on control and precision. It's not as forgiving as arcade racers, but that's exactly why it feels rewarding once you get used to it. Up next is INDUSTRIA at 90% off, and this is a short, story-driven shooter with a strong focus on atmosphere. It has a bit of that Half-Life inspired feel, where the world itself tells part of the story. It's not very long, but the setting, pacing, and overall vibe make it worth experiencing. And next, Steelrising at 90% off, making another appearance here, and it's still a very solid deal. This is a Souls-like game set in an alternate version of the French Revolution, where you're fighting mechanical enemies in a detailed, dark world. The combat is challenging and methodical, and if you enjoy that style, this is easily worth picking up at this price. Up next, Darksiders Ultimate Edition at 85% off, and this is a great bundle if you enjoy action-adventure games. You're getting multiple titles with a mix of combat, puzzles, and exploration. The games have a very distinct art style and a more arcade-like approach to combat, which makes them easy to get into but still fun to master. And next, Little Nightmares at 85% off, and this is one of those games that sticks with you. It's a puzzle platformer with a strong horror atmosphere where you play as a small character in a very disturbing world. The scale, the sound design, and the way the game builds tension make it incredibly memorable. Up next, Blair Witch at 80% off, and this this is actually one of my favorite horror games. It focuses heavily on psychological tension, atmosphere, and storytelling rather than constant action. You're exploring a forest, dealing with your own perception, and slowly uncovering what's going on. If you want me to make a full video about the best horror games, let me know by dropping a like and writing about it in the comments. And next, Trailmakers at 80% off, and this one is all about creativity. You're building your own vehicles using different parts and then testing them in various environments. It can be as simple or as complex as you want, and it's really fun if you enjoy experimenting and creating your own solutions. And finally, Titan Chaser at 77% off, and this is a very unique experience. It's a slow-paced exploration game where you're tracking giant creatures across open landscapes but without combat. The focus is on atmosphere, photography, and just observing the world. It's calm, a bit unusual, but definitely something different if you're looking for a more relaxing experience. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching the video. It honestly means a lot, and thank you to everyone who's been subscribing lately. We're getting really close to 10,000 subscribers, which is actually insane, so thank you for all the support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.